Hi, this is George Alger. Welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. Today we're going to be talking about health and nutrition in a post-pandemic era. And our guest expert is Adrian Ceja, who is a nutrition coach. Welcome, Adrian. And what does this even mean, health and nutrition in a post-pandemic era?
Yeah, well, first, George, thank you so much for having me on the show. I think if we look at our nutrition just on a day-to-day basis, I mean, truly, I really feel like the pandemic really caused a sort of a shift or like a little bit of a move in our eating rhythm and our flow. And so I think because of the stress of the pandemic, I think it caused a lot of changes in the way that we're living our day-to-day life, and that's including our food and what we're eating and cravings and eating out of anxiety and stresses and different things like that.
Cool. So what would be a remedy?
Yeah. So I think first of all, I mean, I think it's common that people want to look for like, the best diet, the perfect thing. And I think it just comes down to making small, simple steps, incremental changes. So start to notice your daily cues. Are you noticing that you're eating, too late at night, too close to bed? Are you noticing that you're having more sugar than what you would typically have? So start to notice what those cues are and start to reduce and eliminate those things that's going to cause more stress on the body, and maybe even starting to get rid of the foods that are not making you feel well, but then you realize you're really just having them out of a coping mechanism.
For those kind of persons, is there any specific recommendations you might have regarding nutrition to help them become less stressful or just improve their health?
So if we can increase our protein more, if we can have more whole food based meals, less fast food, less processed foods, then we can see a huge benefit and a huge way in how we're going to be able to manage that stress specifically.
Okay, cool. Now, what would be your thoughts on exercise in relationship to health and nutrition?
Yeah. Well, deep thoughts with that. I think when it comes down to the exercise, obviously depending on the person and the goal specifically, we want to make sure that the nutrition aligns with what that goal is. And so, of course, when we can start to improve our eating habits and things like that, it's obviously going to support a good exercise regimen. So I think the best we can align them together, that's what's going to be able to help to maximize the person's progress and results.
Good. Now, if someone has sort of, I don't know, become less active as a result of the pandemic and, perhaps started eating, not to their own personal standards, is there, I don't know, some kind of basic tips you could provide to help someone who wants to get back on track, but may not be able to just do it today, meaning immediately?
Yeah, this topic is so prevalent just in my coaching today because I'm seeing this trend of oftentimes people wanting to shoot really high. And so they have these high expectations of themselves, or they shoot really high of a goal, but there's something in psychology, I think it's called the confidence competence loop. And so one of the things that I'm seeing is that people have this high level confidence, but their competence level, meaning their knowledge, skills, and abilities, isn't really at that level necessarily. And then so when they don't hit that, they end up getting frustrated, and it causes self-sabotage and things like that. So going back to even what I said before, small, simple steps. I think starting first with scheduling out your workouts. What days of the week can you actually get a workout in? What time of the day? Putting it in your calendar. Start with somewhat of a meal preparation. So whether that looks like you're going to start to prepare your meals before you go to work, before you start your busy day the next day. But small, simple steps like that. It's the fundamentals and the basics that also really matter. So I think we can align those with what our personal goals are. Starting with that, I think is going to be a great key thing for people to move forward.
Good. Now, you mentioned workout. But for some folks, that even might be intimidating. Maybe they don't do workouts, or they consider that that is beyond what they ever want to do. Is it
Yeah.
worthwhile to even consider, if you've been really confined to your house for a long time, to even just go for short walks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the um, working out specifically, I think would be relevant to the person depending on where their fitness level is. Are we talking about a person who's never worked out before versus a person maybe who they used to work out, but they just haven't maybe this past year? So there's some relevance, and I think for like some context, it would just kind of depend. But I mean, it's going to be beneficial for anybody regardless. I mean, if you think of the skeletal system in the body, the basic function of that is movement. So if we can just use the body as it's supposed to be used, I think just with that alone, I think we're going to see some great benefits from that. So whether that means, someone starting out walking, um, and then eventually moving up. Because I think naturally we want to see a progress in ourselves anyway. So if somebody starts walking, they're eventually going to start to feel good about themselves and maybe do a little bit of a jog and maybe do it more times during the week and then start to include some strength training. So I think it's very common. It's a common trend that I see that people, regardless of where they start, there's sort of this like element of like, okay, what else can I do?
Okay, very good. So if I was to review at least some of the points related to making a transition from the pandemic experience into moving back into whatever normal means, but
Yeah.
it would be, certainly take an inventory of any changes that you may have gone through that you consider non-ideal, but take incremental steps towards improving them, as opposed to trying to do it all in a brief time as possible. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and also I think the incremental steps that really helps us to see, a win in the short term, and then when we can win there and see some progress at that level, it's motivating to go to that next level. I mean, nobody wants to get in a program where it's totally out of their element or it's totally out of what they're naturally used to, and then fail. It's demotivating, and it doesn't want to. It's not going to make you feel like you should continue or like you're going to want to continue to see progress, because no one likes to have that demotivating feeling.
Good. All right. Well, Adrian, we're just about out of time here. I wonder if you could sneak in a website that viewers could go to for more information, and if you've got a real sort of brief summating message you'd like to convey to the viewers.
Yeah, I do want to mention though that when going into like a fitness or even nutrition regimen, like starting with the basics and the fundamentals matter. So what does that look like? Learning about nutrition, learning about the basics of it. Starting small. Don't shoot so high. Don't always be looking for the best diet. But let me just tell you, start to clean things up little by little, even as simple as increasing your water intake. And of course, if people want to learn more about me, they can just go to my website, officialadrianceja.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Adrian. We're going to wrap things up
Yeah, thanks
now.
for having me.
This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until I meet again.